Hey everyone, hope you all are well. The first thing I'm doing as always is priming the eye area, and today I'm using the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion. So I've swiped some of this product onto the eye area, and now I'm using a synthetic brush from Wet n Wild just to buff that into the skin. And this will help our shadows to apply nice and smoothly, it'll allow them to blend like a dream, and also it'll make sure they last all day long with no creasing or fading. My palette of choice today is the Naked 2 palette from Urban Decay, and you all seem to adore this palette, which is good because it's still a firm favourite of mine as well. The first shadow I'm beginning with is this matte mauve shade called Tease. So I've just picked it up on a small tapered blending brush. This one came free with the Urban Decay Ultraviolet palette and I really like it. It works the shadow really nicely into the crease area because it's tapered. But then using circular motions and buffing motions, it can also fade and feather the colour out too, which I really like. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm just fading the colour then kind of up towards the crease, just raising my brush a little bit higher in the crease, the less product that I have on my brush. Then I'm going in with a second layer of that shadow now, just to really bump up the intensity of the eyeshadow, and I'm really sweeping it out on that outer corner just to help elongate the eyes and to give me a nice lift. I'm flipping my brush upside down now. There's a little bullet shaped brush on the end of this which is nice and handy. So I'm using that to sweep some of the same shadow down along the lower lash line from outer to inner corner. Next then I'm taking the shadow Busted, and this is a deep kind of purpley brown eyeshadow that has a pearlescent finish, and I'm taking this on a fluffy brush and I'm patting it down on the outer third of the eye and then bringing it up into the crease. Now I actually switched brushes because this one was a bit scratchy, so I'm using the brush that I used previously just to blend this out, and doing this isn't a bad idea either because the excess shadow left on the brush from that tea shade is going to help to fuse those two shadows together. I do want that darker shade to stand out a bit more though, so I'm switching to a different smaller fluffy brush and I'm reapplying. So once again I'm patting it down on the outer portion of the eye, starting with the lid, and then I'm raising my brush up into the crease. And with little circular motions I'm just going to move this shadow across the eye very gradually. I'm just starting to pull the shadow and I'm fading it across the crease. And when I've got the placement down, then I'm using kind of larger circular motions just to buff the colour out towards the brow bone. If you feel there's a harsh edge or you just really want to make sure the edges are completely blurred, go back in with the brush from before with no product on it and run it back and forward over the edge. These shadows though, they blend so easily, they really don't require a lot of effort at all. So now I'm going in with the shade Pistol, which is a kind of taupey grey with a frosty finish, and I'm using a flat C-shaped brush to pat this down on the eyelid right beside that Busted shade. And I'm only applying this though right to the centre of the lid because I'll be keeping the inner half pretty much nice and light and bright. So now I'm taking Verve, which is a beautiful light frosty grey, and I'm taking the shadow initially dry and I'm patting it with a C-shaped brush onto the inner half of the eyelid. So I want a nice gradual fade across the lid from light to dark, so the light grey to dark grey to purple and then eventually black. So now I'm taking a second layer of the Verve eyeshadow, but this time I sprayed my brush with some of the Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray. You could use a spritz of water either, but I'm just reapplying this now to make those shimmery particles really pop. Moving back to the lower lash line then, I'm using the bullet shaped brush just to smoke some of the Busted eyeshadow from before just all the way along the lower lash line, making sure though that it connects up on that outer corner. Now for my favourite part, the black. So I'm taking the eyeshadow black out on a much smaller C-shaped brush so that I can be nice and neat with my application. This is a matte black and I'm just beginning very lightly tapping and pressing this down on the outer corner of the eye at an angle. I'm sweeping across into the lash line, then out towards the tail of the brow and then in towards the crease. So in a kind of V shape, but if the V was lying on its side. And as always, I like to work with a small amount of shadow at a time so that I don't over apply and make mistakes. And again, just as you know, black is a very hard colour to work with, so we don't want any mistakes, not with this shade in particular, especially after all the work we've done up until this point. So I'm going in now with a second layer of that black and I'm just building up that intensity very gradually. Now I'm taking an angled brush and I've taken up some more of the black on my brush and I'm adding this down along the lower lash line. And what I do then to the bottom, I'm also going to do to the top. So once I'm happy with how that looks, I'm then going to line along the upper lash line. So making my way from outer to inner corner, and this will help to conceal the band of lashes that I'll be applying in a moment. So to line the waterline then, I'm taking one of the 24/7 Glide On eye pencils in the shade 0, and I'm just running this back and forward inside the eye, and the formulation of these pencils is one of my all-time favourites. So I felt then that the lower lash line could do it a little bit more of a blend, so I'm just using the bullet shaped end of that brush just to run back and forward to make sure everything is nice and soft and smoky. I've applied some lashes, and now I'm using the Urban Decay Lash Freak Mascara to apply some of this to my bottom lashes and then also to the top to blend my own lashes in with the false ones. And this formulation, I love it, but it's a formula that it does get better as the mascara ages. Once it dries out a bit better, it's a bit easier to work with. But to finish off the look then, I'm taking the Shadow Booty Call, and I'm using a little bullet brush again just to apply a pop of this to the inner corner of the eye. But then that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this cool tone smoky eye. I hope you found it helpful and easy to follow. If you did, let me know, and I'll catch you all really soon.